Good morning. Good morning. My name is Kelly Lewis. I'm with Lewis Strategic, and it's great to be here in Hanover. I love to come to Hanover. Since I was a young boy, I've loved Hanover. I think we used to get bribed by my mother and aunt to come to Hanover and for their little story to go shopping, which we didn't know that was part of the story. We'd come to one of the pretzel or potato chip places and do the tour. And you know, at the end of the tour, like breweries now, you get to eat potato chips and pretzels at the end. So back then, I was with a bunch of brothers and a stepsister and stepbrother, and we're all packed in the car, the Brady Bunch. We're driving through the country roads from York County over to Hanover. And we'd go do the tour. And you guys, some of you guys know this, back then, it was like a treasure trove if you got the broken pretzels. Remember that? My mother convinced us that that was like the greatest thing in the world, to get the broken pretzels. We didn't know back then that they were more affordable. So, well, we'd do that, and then, just like boys do, in the car ride home, we'd battle on who made the best potato chips and pretzels in Pennsylvania, right? Do you remember those battles? It used to be who had the best car and all that, but back in our trips to Hanover, it was who made the better potato chips. And that was that great saying, me and my other younger brother would go, Utz. With a name like Utz, it's gotta be good, right? That was, Smuckers stole it from our family, that saying. With a name like Utz, it's gotta be good. So we love coming back to Hanover. I was joking with my brothers last night, about coming down and remembering those great road trips over to Hanover. I wanted to give a chance to give Gary Laird a chance to say hello from the Hanover Chamber. They've been a great partner of ours for now our second broadband project here. Gary Laird.
Thank you, Kelly. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see so many people here this morning. I missed the first meeting. But again, this is a tremendous opportunity, I think, for the Hanover community. Project like this, as you can well imagine, is a tremendous undertaking. There are a lot of layers that obviously have to be addressed and worked out, a lot of details. But I think today's meeting, we're going to learn a little bit more about the progress that's been made since the last meeting. I had the opportunity to work with Kelly probably 6, 7, 8 years ago on some other initiatives here in the Hanover area. So I don't have to tell you how important this project could be to the area. I don't have to tell you about the economic impact, other than it could have a tremendous impact economically on this area. You can look at the poster boards around the room, the materials that have been provided to you today relative to how broad the reach of this type of a project can be for our community. So I appreciate Kelly and the folks from United Fiber coming down today to provide these updates. I understand we're going to have continued updates throughout the course of the summer, as well as progress continues on this project. We will do our best to maintain communications between United and the other partners in this arrangement and our local business community. So if in the downtime or in between meetings, if anybody has any questions, or if you would like to provide any feedback, we would be happy to have a conversation with you, or listen to whatever your comments or feedback may be and pass them on to United Fiber. But I think they have a pretty good direct connection with any one of you in terms of soliciting feedback. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here today, and I look forward to hearing today's presentation as much as you do. So thank you. Kelly.
Great. Gary, thanks so much. It's great to be back. We did a broadband project here maybe 7, 8 years ago, and it was one of the great things. We had a partner named Adam Smith. Adam Smith came down with us. We had a whole bunch of broadband companies that made investments out to their existing customers. We did a small RFP. We got some great results. And we're really glad to be back, because the way broadband works, just like the tech industry, about every 18 months, the technology gets 2 times faster and the price goes down 50%. That's Moore's Law for any of the techies in the world. Anybody know what I mean by Moore's Law? It's been happening in the tech industry. Now it's coming over to the broadband industry. So every 18 months, your technology should be getting faster. What's been happening in broadband, it's been happening almost automatically every 18 months without anybody saying, I'd really like to get faster broadband speeds. Some of us here remember 56K. Some people remember getting 1 megabit and they used to do the dance in their house. Now we're talking gigabit. That's 1,000 megabits. 1,000 megabits. Anybody have that in their home? Anybody want that in their home?
Be nice.
All right. Well, that's what we're here today to talk about. Getting 1,000 megabits into your home, into your business, under $100 a month. Is anyone paying more than $100 a month for their broadband right now? Anybody? Well, we know cities in America that are paying less than $100 a month for 1,000 megabits into their home. We want to help Hanover become one of those American cities. Under 100,000 megabits to your home, to your business, on your phone. Anybody have a cell phone in the room? So we got a great team. We got together in November. This has been a gigabit project for sure. We've been running fast. We've been working all hours. Last night we were trading emails. I think the last one was at 12:23 a.m. And our team's been very passionate about getting better every single meeting, every single day, trying to have some fun with it, hazing me for my haircut, but Gary's got just a great haircut too. Jim's got a great haircut too. So we were talking last night about introducing some of our team. Bernadette, raise your hand. Bernadette put this whole thing together. Thank you so much. You're going to hear from Heather Grip. She's also with United Fiber. She's going to give you the update of United Fiber Data's major investment in the state of Pennsylvania. And we're here today to thank them for bringing that broadband fiber into Pennsylvania through Hanover, Pennsylvania. You're going to hear from John Dolmich. He's the one with the perennial tan. My mother thinks he's a good-looking guy. Who is that guy? So Jim Frank from Delica Strategies. Jim, raise your hand. Delica Strategies is putting the RFP together, the request for proposal for broadband. Jen Dangra, raise your hand. She's with Big Wireless. She's been helping us with the marketing. Cliff, raise your hand. Cliff, my mother said, who's that TV guy? Because he's making you a lot better than you really are. So she remembers me from the political days, and she said, you never looked that good on TV then. So you got it on Blue Ridge Cable. Sorry, guys, up at Blue Ridge, but thank you so much, Cliff. So our project is called the Pennsylvania Gigabit Revolution. When we first came out of the gate with that, about 10 or 12 of my friends in the tech world go, what are you trying to do now? We can get a gigabit. You can get a gigabit in Hanover. The question is how much are you going to pay for that gigabit in Hanover? You can get a gigabit in York. You can get a gigabit in Prottstown. You can get a gigabit in Doylestown in Montgomery County. And what you're going to find out today is that gigabit is a little bit more expensive in Pennsylvania than it is in the rest of the country. And our project is to get a $100 gigabit. Our real goal is to get $870 gigabit. $870 a year, not a month. Is anybody doing the math to their bill right now? So, we've been in a 6-county area: Bucks, Montgomery, Berks, Lancaster, York, and Adams. And we've been at this moving fast, interviewing companies. 205 companies. We picked up one yesterday. 205 participating organizations. Some of them are highlighted in this report. There's a copy in your package. You can download it at our website, GIGABIT or gigabitrev.org. If you're watching this on TV, this is a great report. It highlights just a sampling of some of the amazing companies and organizations doing innovative things in our state, the state that we love. We all love the state. You guys all live here, right? You can move anywhere, right? Somehow you decide to live here. Let's make it great. We don't need a guy from New York to tell us that. Okay, so some of you are participating organizations. And when you said you wanted to participate, we said we'd give you a technology action plan. And you can pick them up when you leave. And if your organization hadn't participated already, see me, and we'll put one together for you. It's important for us that we help every single organization that wants to be helped by our project. So in this, we put together an executive summary about your organization. We tell a little story about your organization because you're not the only ones that are going to read this. This will be shared with the county government, with your economic development players, with DCED, so that they can look at each region and get a better picture of what's going on inside a county. We want to brag about your company. We want to tell the world about your organization, what you're doing in your school. Then, John's team, I don't know how many hours it took. It was a lot of hours. But they did individual engineering plans for every single company. They put maps together to show you where your aerial lines are near your company. They put maps together to show you the other broadband participants near your organization, because that's important in how much broadband costs on your street or on your highway or in your town, is who else is buying broadband. And they put that all together in this report. And it's really cool, and it rolls up into a York County view and an Adams County view. Broadband doesn't really go by political boundaries, it goes by where are the buyers. So that all rolls up into a nice county plan. So then we took all the participating organizations and we put them out into an RFP. That RFP was prepared by Delaker Strategies. They've done these broadband aggregation projects for 12 years. They're the best in the country, bar none. There's nobody else that does a better broadband RFP than Delaker Strategies. And you're going to see the results. John's going to show you the results of what they've done the past 12 years on what education pays on a megabit basis and what the rest of the world in Pennsylvania is paying. The delta is incredible. John's going to tell you the delta. I don't remember, what was it? $9 a megabit versus $1.70 a megabit. Education, the rest of us. All right, in the RFP, we put that out on the street. We sent it to the 100 different broadband providers that do business in Pennsylvania. 100 different providers received it, and so far, 24 different companies have asked for the RFP. That's the most we've ever had asked for the RFP. And they're going to give their proposals back to us on April 29th. We're going to take a week or two to sort them out, and then in May, we're coming back. We're going to share those results with each company. Every company can look at it and say, hey, Kelly, that's great, but we're not going to buy any broadband at this time. And we're going to say, ain't it great? We put it all together. You can look at it in the future. Some organizations will look at it and say, we're interested in learning more. And we'll connect you with the providers that responded to your organization, and you can meet with them, you can speak with them, and figure out if it works for you. All voluntary. We know from our projects in the past, we think we're going to get some solid singles. We may get some doubles. We may get some home runs. We think in Hanover, we're going to hit some home runs. Why? Because you all have helped this project so much. You filled the rooms, you got your organizations to participate, and they all show up on the map. And that concentration of participating organizations helps broadband providers create innovative solutions for you. So I'm excited to see the results we get in Hanover. Excited to come back in May, June and July, August, whatever it takes. We'll come down every month for a year, 2 years to get this to work. Because in 18 months, it's going to happen again. Now, the other exciting thing on this project is the amazing investment that United Fiber and Data has already made and is going to make to bring fiber from New York City through Hanover, Pennsylvania, on their way to Ashburn, Virginia. Both New York and Ashburn have some of the biggest data centers in the world. And it takes the fiber lines to go between those data centers to send data back and forth. So it's very important. Most of those data lines run through the 95 corridor. It makes sense, it's the straightest distance. And they can go through Baltimore and Philadelphia and Trenton and Camden and Newark to get to New York. So there's a lot of organizations along that corridor. Now, when UFD builds it, it's going to be a whole new redundant line. There's lots of organizations, financial organizations interested in that line. So they've crossed the Hudson, and Heather's going to give you an update on where they are now, how exciting it is for their company to be bringing it across to Delaware soon, and the millions of dollars that they're investing to make that happen. So let's give a nice round of applause for UFD for investing in our state. UFD.
Good morning. Welcome. Jeez, sure. Thank you guys for coming. I know that we have some repeat faces and some new faces, so I'm really glad to see all the new people. Could I just see a show of hands of everyone who doesn't know what UFD is or what we're doing? Is anyone unfamiliar with that project? Okay, that's a decent amount of people. So I'm just going to explain. Kelly gave you some of it, but I want to give you some more background just so a lot of this makes more sense. United Fiber and Data is a locally owned CLEC. We are headquartered in York, Pennsylvania. We are running a 400-mile fiber line from New York City to Ashburn, Virginia. Currently, we have about 24 miles complete and active in New York City. We are running a different line than the currently existent one. I don't have a map here to show you today, but I can if you want to contact me later. But just to explain, so that is what we would refer to in this presentation as the backbone. And what we studied in our grant with the Gigabit Revolution, we did a feasibility and engineering study as to how your communities would benefit from off-ramps from our line. So what that means is if we run this fiber through your town, how can you get it and how can you benefit? When we came to Hanover the first time, we talked a lot about the benefits, and some of them are higher graduation rates, higher home values, estimated 3.1% higher, just having access to the fiber. You don't even have to have it run to your home, just the access. More infrastructure in your towns, more jobs, job creation, all of that. More people will want to come here. In the old days, people moved to towns because of the power grid, and now they look for broadband. They look for gigabit internet speeds. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background as to what we were doing. As a part of our study, our feasibility and engineering study, I don't think this is, sorry guys. We did surveys. So we surveyed each of the 6 communities, and we surveyed about 600 people. And of those 600 people, we learned that about 60% have no knowledge of what gigabit internet speed is, and those benefits that I just listed to you, and many more. That's over half of the people in these communities. So what that tells us is we have a great deal more work to do bridging the digital divide and digital inclusion and getting the information out. So I would ask all of your help by telling everyone in businesses, your community that you know about the Gigabit Revolution. Encourage them to like us on social media, follow us, be on our website, keep in touch. This is not going to stop anytime soon. This is very exciting. One of the other survey findings that we had is that 87% of people in the 6 communities that we polled have access to the internet. Now that may sound really high, but that's still 13% of people who don't have internet access. So if you just think about everything you use the internet for every single day, and imagine not having it, 13% of people in these communities. The national average is 89% of people that have access to the internet. So our communities are actually a little bit lower than the national average, and it's kind of a crazy number if you think about it. I mean, I think I've probably used the internet constantly since I woke up this morning. This is a map of all of the gigabit cities in the United States. You can see that there's one in Pennsylvania, but there are none on the eastern seaboard. So our goal is to bring more gigabit cities to Pennsylvania. We'd like to bring 6, and they would be on the eastern side of the state. So that would help light up the eastern seaboard with gigabit cities. Even Canada, or even Alaska has one. So we think that the internet is a human right. We're very excited. We want to bring this gigabit internet speed to everyone. So some of the milestones that UFD has had this year, we crossed the Hudson River out of New York City into New Jersey in February, which is huge for our company. Crossing the Hudson River with fiber is very challenging for anyone who knows anything about building a fiber line engineering and all of that. It's challenging. That's a great milestone for our company. We currently have active engineering crews in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Virginia, so that's a big deal. We would like to encourage everyone to continue the Gigabit Revolution conversation. Please like us on social media. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact Bernadette or myself at any time. Kelly is always there, and John Dolmage's team. So Kelly, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
You'll be able to do the math in your head when John does the engineering costs on what a 400-mile line costs. And I hope everyone starts to appreciate that not every broadband company on the planet has drawn a line around the state of Pennsylvania and said, we're going to drop millions of dollars into Pennsylvania this year. So it's really great that it's happening. They're nearby in York, so they're going to do a lot of great things around York. Bernadette put a great program together called Tech Girls. She didn't have to do it, but they're really passionate about spreading the message on this project because the tech industry, we need more women in tech. We need young girls interested in technology. There's not enough technology workers in central Pennsylvania. I'll say it again. There's just not enough technology workers in the state of Pennsylvania. We need to attract tech workers and keep them in the state when we bring a broadband line of this powerful nature into the Commonwealth. When we get gigabit speeds, and we're going to get gigabit speeds this year, under $100, we're going to need a whole innovation an economy to support it. We're going to need tech men and tech girls and tech women and tech boys. Everybody's going to have to start focusing there because we're using technology every day. Every industry is impacted by technology and broadband. Every single one. I mean, it's really staggering what's happening so quickly. We had books in school. Did everybody remember what a book is? Now the kids have Chromebooks and Apples and all these little things. They don't walk to school carrying a book bag. They have their laptop bag, right? We're going through and we're meeting all the different school districts, and all of them have strategy to get their kids onto the internet without books. That's the one profound thing. Like, I wouldn't want to be in the textbook industry in the 6 counties in Pennsylvania because they're getting rid of their books and they're going to an electronic format. Anybody have children or grandchildren using that right now? Yep. My daughter does her homework on a computer. I don't think she knows what a legal pad is. I saw her use index cards once and I thought, that's ancient. Studying for anatomy, she was using index cards. I'm like, wow, that's pretty innovative to write down a thought. So Medical. It used to be all paper records, and the entire country has gone through this huge revolution to move to electronic medical records. And it's happening at a record pace, and now that they have that done, it's been a 10-year hurdle, now all kinds of innovations are happening. We started this week at the Biotechnology Center in Bucks County. Unbelievable place, and they discovered the cure to hepatitis C in Pennsylvania, in our footprint. It's so amazing to go into that building and think that there's scientists, men and women, working there 24 hours to try and find the cures to the big diseases facing civilization. And their patent is going out around the world. We can't wait to get them $100 gigabit. Their leaders have said, if you can get us that kind of speed for that kind of cost, that is going to help our center so much because all the different algorithms. And I didn't know what they said after that. Does anybody remember Dr. Culp starting? I had no idea what he said after that. But it sounded really cool, and I'm like, we want to get you gigabit. Big Wireless, they're based in York. They've got over 100 employees working in broadband around the country. They do broadband design in all, 50 states, John, 48 states?
Every one of them.
So it's just amazing what they're doing here in York. Around the world, companies hire them to do that work. They specialize in it, and we've been fortunate enough to have them in our project. They put in way more extra hours than anybody expected to get the result that you're going to see and benefit from for the years to come. And they're passionate about helping any one of your organizations figure out the strategy to maximize your broadband. John Dolmans.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm going to switch over this presentation quick, and I'll be with you folks. Before I start, when UFD came to me and said that they wanted to do this project, I looked at it as a tremendous opportunity to accomplish a goal that I've always wanted to do. I started my tech company about 25 years ago in York, and spent a lot of time traveling around the country to different cities and things like that, and I've seen regions grow much faster than these regions. And I started to have to ask myself why. Why can't I find tech workers here in central Pennsylvania? I've actually had an outstanding ad for software developers for over 2 years, and I can't find them here. I can't find them in York, I can't find them in Hanover, I can't find them in Harrisburg, can't find them in Lancaster, can't find them anywhere. You know where I can find them? Portland, Dallas, Seattle, Memphis. So my last 12 hires in software development live outside this state. And that's a real travesty. So when these guys came to me, I said, you know what? The state's giving us money to try to transform something, to try to come up with something really good. And I got this team together. I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I need like the best players. Kelly. I've known Kelly for a long time. Delica Strategies. I actually met them through another good friend of mine who's in the broadband industry. Because we got one shot at this, and I looked at it as a very unique opportunity. And I told them when I sat down with them, I said, listen, we have 6 communities to analyze, 6. And I'm going to tell you right now, the 2 that are going to be the golden nuggets out of this whole thing, Kelly, correct me, is going to be York and Hanover. And there's a reason for it. One is there's very good companies in these areas. There's a tremendous workforce, a very hard-working workforce. It's inexpensive to live here. And we have this opportunity to try to fix a problem that exists in southern York County. And that is, and you're going to see it, this is a little bit different presentation. Kelly hasn't even seen the one slide I have. But I've always had a hunch. Like I said, I travel all the time. And I spend a lot of time, we're based in York, spend a lot of time driving from York down to Baltimore to fly. So far this year, I've flown over 100 flights, which is a lot. And it's not even May yet. And the outflow of our workforce in southern York County, and that's basically here and over in York, is tremendous. This is one of the only regions of the country that telecommuting is not working. The virtual workforce, my whole workforce is virtual. I have people working all over the country. We're virtual. What's happening in York County that our traffic keeps increasing down to the Baltimore and DC area. In fact, the traffic from here and York down towards the DC area is worse than the Beltway. It really is. I mean, I drive from Baltimore up. I'd rather drive on 695 than get on 83. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. So I had a hunch that if we were going to make something work, that York and Hanover were going to be phenomenal places to do it. And I'm going to go into the details of why. And from the surveys that we've done and from the engineering studies that were done, I was right. I mean, there's a way to fix this problem. There's a way to make these areas, York and Hanover, technology hubs, to stop that, keep everybody up here, and bring more technology jobs up in this area. It's just a fact. And you're going to, I mean, I have the quantitative results. I'm an engineer. But I'm very passionate about this. You know, I moved to Florida 2 years ago because I just can't stand the cold. But I spend a lot of time up here. And I'm committed to changing this region. It has to be done for us to grow economically. Because I have the economic leaders, especially in York, saying, what can we do economically? Why aren't we growing our city? Why don't we look like Lancaster? And if you look at York and Lancaster, two completely different communities, same populations, look at the downtowns. You know why? Because Lancaster has a connection. They actually have a commuter connection to Philly. Those people get on the train, they work on the way over, they don't leave until 7:30 and they're back by 4 o'clock. I do a lot of work in Philly. Our workforces here in southern Hanover and over in York, they leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, waste 2 or 3 hours driving, don't get back here till 7 o'clock at night. They spend all their money down there. So the goal is, how do we create a connection between Hanover and that area where people are working, or York in that area? We need to do it virtually. We need fiber. We need to keep the tech up here, but keep working for those organizations. And I'm going to show you some quantitative results that say why. What I did here too is that, you know, Hanover and York County's our only county that we have that has two communities. It has York and Hanover that we were tasked with doing this development. So this is actually the York County presentation that has both York in it and a detailed design of Hanover, which I'm going to go through. So what we did, as Kelly said, we have 204 people that requested technology action plans. So that provided the basis. It said, here's 204 organizations that are potentially interested in gigabit. Okay, at least we know they're potentially interested. So that became our core base of designing around this thing. And because my team has local knowledge, we said, you know what? We have this base of 204 organizations. If we're going to do a design to get to all these organizations, let's look at the other top potential broadband users, the largest companies and organizations in the entire region that didn't come forward and say they want it. And they don't have to come forward and say they want it because they're going to need it. It's just a fact. They may not know it yet, but they're going to need it. So what we did is did the analysis. It's actually 561 organizations that we did the analysis for. That number, honestly, there's 4 times that they're going to need this stuff. We don't know all the organizations. We don't know all the new business parks that are coming up. We don't know all the new education facilities that are built, but we at least had to start somewhere. And what we did is we came up with real buildable 1,200 aerial miles of fiber that somebody can build. Somebody can build the whole thing. Somebody can build a community. These RFP respondents are going to look at it and they're going to decide what they want to do. But the one thing I want to make clear to you, and you're going to see it in the detail, these people are going to come back and they're going to give you pricing. you always have the option to look at the pricing, and you always have the option to look at it as an economic investment for your individual community and say, I want to do this myself. It's always the option. And in York and Hanover, it makes sense. So really pay attention to that. I'm going to go fast through the York County stuff, but there's some interesting points in here. So why did I think this area, the whole York County area, was going to be a golden nugget? 271 organizations were analyzed in York County. Our closest number to that was 75 in another county. These people are interested. People in York County are interested in this stuff. We've had the most TAP respondents respond in York County, and we had the most other organizations that are potentially there. 271, and the closest one was 75. That's a huge number. And what we came up with was 117 aerial miles of fiber to reach all those organizations. And when I say aerial miles of fiber, this isn't pie in the sky. We know the poles are there. We know there's existing telecommunications infrastructure there. It's actually buildable. The core York County area, again, I'm going to skip through this, but 150 of those 271 organizations only require 54 aerial miles. This area would be the cheapest per organization to build out of all 5 counties that we looked at, by far. And I'm going to get into those numbers. York City, again, Hanover's going to look like this. When you see the numbers compared to the organizations versus aerial miles, it's actually staggering what could actually happen in these communities. 75 organizations, only 25 aerial miles. If you do the math, when I get into the cost, you'll be amazed. Southern York County is probably the worst because they're often ignored because there's some very nice organizations down there, but it takes a lot because it's more rural than anything else to reach those organizations. Only 12 with 24 aerial miles. And if I go back here, 75 and 25, 12 and 24. Flip-flop numbers. And, it's an economy of scale. The more organizations, the less aerial miles, the cheaper it is to build per organization. The Hanover area, again, just like York. 30 organizations with only 14 aerial miles. And you see, you're probably now starting to ask the question, well, what does it really cost? Is 14 a lot? 14 aerial miles a lot? The answer is no. Not for 30 organizations that you could actually build a network, not just gig. It's fiber. For the technology people here, fiber is not gig. Fiber could be gig, 10 gig, 100 gig. Now they're up to, I think, 400 gig. 400 gig on a pair of fiber. Here's a slide that we haven't had in any of the other. Now it's actually in the county technology action plan. We had this inkling that telecommuting was a problem. Okay, so we did a survey. We did actually 2 different surveys. We did one that was generic across all counties, which was this one up here. Do you ever telecommute? How many people here telecommute? Okay. Well, guess what? Your numbers are matching up. Look at Doylestown. 77% of their workforce does not telecommute. They work virtually. That's what the world's supposed to do. What's wrong with York and Hanover? They're the lowest ones. That was the goal of telecommuting. That was the goal of broadband and internet, was to be able to work in the cloud and telecommute and reduce the fuel that we spend and the road maintenance and the time wasted telecommuting. Our hunch was right. It was exactly right. The other interesting things, we said, how many of you work in the Baltimore, D.C. area? 26%. That's 26% of Southern York County. When you matriculate that out, there's over 100,000 people that live in Southern York County. 26%. Okay? And what I did is some math in the county plan, which is, whoever wants a copy of the county plan that goes into the details of these numbers, I said, okay, 26% of 100, that's 26,000 people, right? Well, let's say that we have 4 people in a household. So we divide that number by 4. Okay? Now we're up to still 6,000 people commute. It's ridiculous out of these counties. The other interesting thing, we said, well, why do that? Why is everybody telecommuting? Well, we determined, and again, the growth in the cybersecurity field is huge. We look at our numbers, and they may not look at high percentages. 9% of those telecommuters, okay, of our respondents say they work in the security field. That's why they can't telecommute, because we don't have direct blast down to DC. That's exactly why. That's how we fix the problem. And we make this area and York technology centers for those top data security providers. So we have the secure, high-speed communication that they can stay here in this county. Very interesting metrics. I wasn't shocked because I knew what the reason was. So now we get into the cost. And this is, again, from a per organization perspective across all 5 counties, York County has the lowest build cost per organization. I don't know if Kelly paid attention to all the numbers. We've been through all these presentations. But we look at it, average per mile of aerial fiber for new construction. That means there's no existing infrastructure there. It's hanging new fiber on poles. It's about $30,000 a mile. If we do overlash, which means there's stuff there already and we can just attach the fiber to the existing cable, it's about $15,000 a mile. And then what we did is we broke it down. We said, so you saw those slides that had the geographic regions of the county, including, Hanover, okay? And we divided that cost by the number of organizations in there. And if we look at Hanover, if there was existing stuff there, which I already know there is, we looked at the stuff on the poles, it would cost less than $10,000 an organization in Hanover to bring fiber to every one of those organizations. Cities like Hanover and York, and I told the people in Pottstown, you guys spend that kind of money on parks, but you won't spend it on a virtual road to make the area more conducive for tech jobs to come here. It's not that much money. That's the interesting thing. And traveling all over the place, other cities are doing this. I see it because they're building the infrastructure. Now you're going to see some dramatic stuff, which Kelly and I didn't expect to uncover, this stuff that we've uncovered here. So what we did is, out of all the technology action plan respondents, we asked them, and we should have asked up front. I didn't really think about it. That was my fault. But we went back and asked them and said, hey, what speeds do you have and how much are you paying? Unfortunately, we didn't get as many responses as we wanted. And after you see these numbers, we're going to ask you again, because it's important that we know what people are paying. But these numbers are going to shock you. So out of York County, these are all the companies that responded. Okay, we're not listing the companies' names. We don't need to tell you who they are. But you'll see it's a wide sampling of people that are buying 600 meg, 1.6 gig, down to 16 meg, 8. Look at their price per meg, up and down that they're paying. Look at that. That's real. It's what they told us they were paying. The carriers that nobody's questioned me, and I've had carriers in the room, nobody's questioned me on my slides. You know why? Because it's true. Those are real numbers. And now you're going to see why basically this whole entire central PA, it's broadband discrimination. You guys are paying way more than you could, because you can't afford that. You want gig today? Well, you want to pay $8,700 a month? I don't think so. So then what we did is we said, okay, well, here's a nice little graph, and you can see that. Pay attention to the legends when I compare this. Up here, this Chattanooga, Kansas City, Lafayette, they're all gig cities. They said, you know what? We want to make it attractive for high-tech companies and large companies to move to our cities. We're going to build new roads. They're not going to be made of asphalt. They're going to be made of glass. Look over here, these numbers. Look at that legend. 7 cents per meg. 7. because they were smart. They saw it coming. And people like Chattanooga, they built it. VW came and put 3,500 new jobs in that place. That's what happens. And as close to we are as the DC and Baltimore metro area, that's what we need to do here. And get all those people down there. They live up here because it's cheap to live up here. Very, very interesting. So you think 7 cents and you look at these numbers up here, and how much is that really? Well, this is all central Pennsylvania rates. Kelly said, John, look at all of them. Tell me what the average cost is. Be nice, you know? Make the numbers, you can make them look better. I can't make them look any better. The average is $9.37 a meg. That's including the IUs and things like that that are as low as 87 cents a meg. But still, 87 versus 7, still over 10 times at the best. So pay attention to these numbers when I get in the next chart. Average download. And I'm being nice. I'm calculating all these, the rest of these numbers on that download, not that crappy upload rate of 14. But the average educational rate, which the educational facilities have already done aggregation, okay, with the IUs and stuff like that, and Deliker's worked on that, and they've gotten that rate down to an average of $1.72 a meg. Well, that's better than $9.37, but it's still nowhere near as good as 7 cents. So what we said is, okay, those people that we had, that we listed before, we said, what happens if they all wanted a gig at their rates? Well, look how much annually it would cost that one company. $350,000 a year at what they're paying if they were paying per meg gig. That's crazy. Remember Kelly's $870 number? The best guy on there, the best guy, that's education, is at $25,000 a year for a gig. And in Chattanooga, it's $870 a year. So then we said, okay, now we really want to see what everybody's paying. We want to see what this is costing Central PA. So we said, what happened if all 561 organizations wanted a gig at the average rate? They would be spending $63 million a year in broadband. And like I said before, we're saying 561. There's 4 times that many organizations out there. 63 million, but now we're going to be nice. Let's give them the education rate. Oh, they're still at $11 million. But let's give them exactly what they want. 7 cents, $471,000. Those numbers are staggering. That's why big tech companies are relocating to Kansas City, Chattanooga, places like that, because they already had 3 cheap things that Central PA has. Hanover has it. Less expensive labor, less expensive housing, and less expensive power. But Chattanooga said, I'm going to give you what you really want, cheap broadband. So now you got the 4. That's what companies are looking for. So hopefully you found this informative and shocking. I told you before, we have the RFP coming out. Respondents are going to look at it and decide whether they can build something and make it as cheap as 7 cents. I'd be happy with $1. I think you guys would be, to be able to get the kind of speeds. Because the nice part about the infrastructure is, that's just with a gig. Once that fiber is laid, then you can just dial up the speed. As Kelly said, every 18 months you need faster, double it, now you're at 2 gig. You actually you're building an infrastructure that is for the future. It's going to attract the kind of workforce you want, the kind of companies you want, and allow you to be competitive globally. Not just here, but globally. So, thank you. Hope it was informative.
Does everybody understand the math? Any questions on the math? Our goal here is to figure out a way to get to $870 gigabit. Maybe we'll have to get to 20,000 to get to 10,000 to get to 870. There's no one here with a magic wand. There's no magic dust. There's no broken pretzels that are going to get us there real quick. But what this happens is you start understanding the math, and by your show of force today and the participation that you've had, you saw what happens. When you get a bunch of organizations close together that want broadband, it makes it real easy to put solutions together. If I'm a broadband company and I see 30 companies within a 10-mile aerial fiber radius, there's a lot of great solutions that they can come forward with. That's what's going to really be great about your project. And kudos to everyone. I know the Chamber's been helping us, Mantech's been helping us, the Manufacturers Association has been helping us do the outreach to get everybody here today. You've got colleagues at other companies that aren't here today. We need them. We need more dots. We need more participating organizations in Hanover, Spring Grove, in York. We need more because the more that you get, the lower cost per mile. And then the companies can come forward with better strategies for you. We don't have to lift a finger. We don't have to get a shovel. We don't have to build the railroad. There's already hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in York County. Some of the biggest brand names in broadband are already here in your town. What we need to do is just say, we want our MTV. Is anybody old enough to remember when MTV played videos?
Unfortunately.
When it wasn't drama or whatever else is on there now. Every now and then I say, I'm going to switch to MTV and see if they play a video. I bought a t-shirt to get videos back then, when $10 was $10. Does anybody remember when $10 was $10? Now I sound like my mother, you know? When a loaf of bread was 50 cents. How much does bread cost? I'm gluten-free, I don't even know. So anyway, we just need you to say, we want a $100 gigabit. Now, when you go home tonight and you say that at dinner, it might not have the great conversation. I don't know. Is there anyone here with a husband and wife team that love a $100 gigabit? We need a husband and wife team in Hanover that just says, I want a $100 gigabit. So that one of them or both of them don't have to drive to Baltimore to work to make a family-sustaining wage somewhere else. You can make it right here. You got a company, I mean, John will send troops down here to help. His people drove every one of those 1,200 miles to see if there really was fiber up on that pole. Nobody asked him to do that. The state didn't say in a grant requirement, you must drive 1,200 miles and look at every pole. Half the things in here they didn't ask us to do. We want this so bad for our state. There's lots of people in this 6th county that want this so bad for their state because they know what a glass highway does. First you get the glass highway and then the prices are going to come down and the competition is going to happen. I hope all 24 of those companies put in a proposal. I can't wait for UFD to cross the Delaware River. They'll talk about that for years to come when they build that, because right now we're talking about them building one fiber line. I want them to build 100. There's no reason once they get to Ashburn that they can't go up to Hazleton, up to Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, out to Erie, Pittsburgh, and everywhere else in between. I guess they make fun of that for a week or two on national TV. But everywhere in Pennsylvania can compete, anywhere in the world, if they have a glass highway. I played football across that coal region, and I can tell you they can compete against anybody. All you need to do is put them on a field and give them the tools, and they'll fight harder than anybody else you ever met. So we're really pleased that you're here today. We'll answer questions. Please pick up your technology action plan. If you did not get a technology action plan or you didn't sign up to survey, please see me, see Bernadette, and we'll get you a technology action plan. If you know 10 other companies, I'd love to meet with you. We want to get 10, 20, 30 more companies in Hanover on that map. We'll put them in the RFP. We'll get the best solutions that we can. We're going to meet in May. I think we're coming back on May 20th. We're working out some dates. We're going to work with Gary on the best dates to come back for his schedule. If you have some ideas, we're very interested in learning what you think could happen. Did we cover everything, guys? Thanks you again for coming out. Look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you so much. Before you leave, one thing. One thing, too, I wanted to leave with, and I wrote this note, and I want to just say it. There's one thing about this new world development. It's not if you build it, they will come. There's one different thing right now. This room and outside this state, if they don't believe, you can see right through it. John's around the country, and we've been talking about this the past 3 months. If they don't believe that you believe this, the tech industry isn't coming, and companies aren't coming. If they believe that you're not going to continually invest in this innovation, they're not going to come. There's no one-hit wonders. Everyone that's Gigabit City now, they got to come back in 18 months and refresh it. Am I right, John?
Exactly.
You got to be committed. If Hanover wants this and you want companies to move here, this is not a once and done. That's why the monthly meetings are important. Not every company is going to break their contract right now to get broadband because they're in a 1 or a 2 or a 3-year term. This has to be continuous. The innovation economy is not going away. This is not like water, Jim. Am I right? The one point that Jim made out is this is not water, where you build a water lines and then you kind of go away and you just make sure that you get clean water. You all get your monthly statement or annual statement that your water is clean, and then you show up at a meeting, right? Once you've got clean water, you just expect it. And then the water company does what they do. But here, you got to refresh it. Every 18 months. I'm not making it up. I'm not smart enough for Moore's Law. But I know that it's true. And it's been happening in the tech industry since they started it. You can't deny it. Does everybody's phone better? Did anybody, who's your provider? AT&T, Verizon? Do you call them every 18 months and say, I really want you to improve it for me?
If I thought they would do any good, I totally would.
But they're doing it. Is everybody's phone way better than it was 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Right? It does all kinds of things. It does things that I don't even know how to do. Right? Does anybody use all the apps on their phone? It keeps getting better. You need a glass highway. You need to be at the table. Today, 18 months, 36 months.
I get the value and I understand the math, Kelly, but I haven't heard you talk about the implementation, the timeline for implementation. When can we expect this? When does it get it across New Jersey, across to Delaware, and into Pennsylvania, and eventually here to Hanover?
It's already happening. The great thing about our meetings and what we do is broadband providers have already reached out to some of your largest broadband buyers and started negotiating better contracts. There's already hospitals that have signed extensions at a lower price for a higher speed. The industry's already working on it. UFD, we're coming back on a monthly basis so UFD can give you progress reports on their side of the project. They're going to be an option. What's interesting about UFD is a lot of those 24 providers are going to buy broadband from them. A lot of those broadband providers, they all work together to provide solutions to customers. they don't have one train line that they only use to get to Ashburn or New York. They use other people's lines.
Kelly, just a quick comment as well to kind of follow up on John's question. You know, phase one of this is certainly what Heather referred to as the backbone of the project from New York to Ashburn. Maybe in the next session, it would be helpful to have an update from United Fiber as it relates to the status, maybe where that line is going through York County, because it's my understanding that that is already been, that route has been established. And perhaps it would give us some sense of, from a timing standpoint, when we might get this opportunity extended to our community, you know, just from a timing standpoint. So it seems like that's the front end of this whole project. So it would be, I think, interesting for all of us to get an update on the status of that maybe in the next meeting.
So there's two parts to the project. There's the RFP, which is mutually exclusive of UFD. We're going to get results on April 29th. We're going to share them with the organizations, and they may hit home runs through that RFP. On the UFD side, they're coming through December. By the end of this year, their goal is to be in Ashburn.
The latest update is the beginning of the fourth quarter should be finished in Ashburn. So we can continue to provide updates, and all the information that Bernadette and I collected from everyone, we will be putting you all on the UFD mailing list, so you'll get everything from the company from this point forward. But that is our plan. But one important thing for me to point out for the grant's sake, and just piggybacking off of what Kelly said, is the reason we put the RFP out is this project is mutually exclusive of UFD. So yes, we are coming through, but another provider could do this for you. It doesn't have to be UFD. Of course, from UFD's perspective, we would love for it to be UFD, but that's why we put the RFP out. So once we get those results, we'll have a lot more information for you in the coming weeks.
Is the line from New York to Ashburn, is that direct variable, or is that?
It's a mix of aerial and. So we're a CLEC, so we can get on the poles that are owned by other providers, whereas if we were not registered in the CLEC, we couldn't do that. So that's why we're able to do aerial fiber.
Great.
Some of the laws restricting the CLECs, if you're not a CLEC, you can't get on the poles. Does that preclude the city, municipality from owning the last mile?
Let me ask that question, because I'm going to answer that question, because it was a point that I made. You know, I don't know what the existing agreements are. I don't even know who owns all the poles in these areas. It may be, some of it may be owned by the city, some of it may be owned by Adams Electric and things like that. The majority of the time, the municipality actually has rights to attach to those poles. Okay, the majority of the time. I mean, the CLECs and the cable operators have franchise agreements with CLECs. And I mentioned early on that the respondents are going to come back and offer prices or solutions or whatever. When you have a situation like Hanover or York, nothing precludes the city or any government entity of getting all the organizations together and say, this is how much it's going to cost to build it. If you have rights on the poles, you can build it yourself. And you can build it yourself and do one of many things. You can contract with UFD to buy bulk internet from them. You can contract with any provider to buy bulk internet from them. Okay? You can own the infrastructure. Nothing precludes you from doing that. And in places like this, when there's that kind of concentration of dots, other cities have done it. I mean, other cities have done it. They do the same thing. They go back and they ask for pricing. If it comes back and the pricing is not what you want, the nice part about what we've provided is you can do the math. You can do the math and figure out what it would cost to build it. And you can do that. You know, and there's combinations thereof. Some municipalities say we're gonna own our own last mile, but we're gonna contract with Verizon or Comcast or somebody to provide the actual internet service. Because the things that we didn't touch on here is that there's a more expensive service that people are paying for. And that is, you look at the organizations in your area and, you know, like an US or somebody else like that, that has multiple locations. And they may be paying people for those connections between those organizations or those buildings, which is typically even more expensive than internet. Okay, so there's a lot of possibilities. And does it make sense to do it? In my opinion, the numbers come back and they don't work. The answer is yes. I mean, townships and boroughs and counties maintain roads. They maintain right-of-ways. They own them. This is no different. It's no different. I mean, the water, you have municipal water companies. You have municipal power companies. This is a utility service. It's a required service. So, I mean, you can look at it, but I don't know. I mean, it depends on the agreement that the city has or the municipality has with whoever owns the poles. In this case, it may be Adams Electric. I'm not quite sure. We have talked to all the utility providers. They're my customers as well. I do a lot in the utility space. So you just have to look at the agreements, but nothing precludes you from doing that.
I'll do a translation. There's lots of solutions out there. We don't own the monopoly on the solution. Sometimes everybody, so you want to come to a meeting and hear, guess what? We've got the solution mapped out. There's 24 different providers that are going to come forward with some solutions. Maybe some of them are perfect for Hanover. Maybe they need to be adjusted. Maybe there's other things that will happen. But our goal as a project, our goal is to give you options. If I get you 10 options in Hanover, I hit a grand slam home run with this project. Because then you can pick and choose and you can call them up and say, can you come in and meet and explain your project on what you do for us? You may even be bold and say, well, what else could you do now that you're in front of us? Is there anything else that you could do? Maybe you could go from $9 down to $8 a megabit per second. Right? We're trying to get you options. In May, we'll have a little bit more information to share with you on some of those options. And in June, you'll have a whole bunch more questions about those May options and come back and maybe formulate some strategies that are best for your organization and maybe best for Hanover. Maybe a bunch of you will get together and say, we got 10 companies on this street. What could we do together? Our goal was to give you options. We're really pleased that you're here today, helping map out the next steps. We're going to send you May dates. We're going to send you June dates. We're going to give you updates on UFD. Thanks so much for coming out today.